What I want to share with you is a potential solution on how to break the endless cycle, the endless war, the battle between your higher self and your lower self. This is a pattern that I've struggled with for many, many years, and I know a lot of people who struggle with this as well, in which you start to improve your life. Right here, you have your higher self. You start to develop the good habits. Things are going well for you. You're getting healthier. Your finances are doing better. Your projects, your jobs, your relationships. You find yourself at peace, in absolute joy. But then eventually you relax. You take a break and you start to compromise, right? Maybe it's a small vacation that's a little bit too long. You take too many days off. And now you start to go down and down and down and down. And eventually your lower self kicks in. And you forget about your good habits, you stop them, you start to develop bad habits, whatever they might be. They're different for different people. For you, it might be junk food, addicted to social media, video games, porn, not exercising, drugs, who knows. And you start to indulge on all of these things. You start to live a more Epicurean life, just wanting to enjoy the moment, living for pleasure. And you leave aside this long-term thinking. That was before it was so pleasurable, but now for some reason you cannot get yourself to do the things that truly your higher self wants to do, because your lower self is actually the one in control right now. And you get to a point where you're so low that now you might be even borderline depressed, you might have some anxiety, you're sad, mopey, whatever, however you want to describe it. And eventually you're so low that there's nowhere else to go but up. And also eventually you get fed up with just distractions. They don't fulfill you anymore. So now you seek to do good things again, right? You put in a little bit of effort, you set aside those bad habits, you start to work on the things that you want to work on. Maybe you start hitting the gym again, you start being more consistent, you're working on your projects, you start reading books, whatever. Your higher self kicks in, and then you go to the top again. But eventually, same thing happens. You relax, your lower self kicks in, right? And we have this endless cycle, this war between your higher self and your lower self that never ends. And you think to yourself, if I could only stay in this state right here within my higher self forever, life would be so nice, it would be so amazing. So how do we break out of this cycle? So recently, I've read this book, the Bhagavad Gita, and there's an answer within this book that will help you break out of this cycle. So the Bhagavad Gita, long story short, it's about Krishna and Arjuna, and they're marching to a war. It's about to begin. They're blowing the horns and they're ready for battle. And Arjuna is looking at all the soldiers, and as they march before the fight, he sees the soldiers, citizens, even people that he knows, family, friends, all ready for battle. And all of a sudden he has what we could call an existential crisis. And he starts to ask Krishna for answers. He starts to question everything, like, what do I do with life? Do I really want to engage in this war? What do I do with this? What do I do with that? I feel this way, I feel that way. He starts to throw around all of these questions. And because Krishna is his really good friend, he starts to give Arjuna answers to all of his problems, all of his questions. And he explains basically how the whole universe works in a way, right? Like how to live reality, how to live this life, how everything functions. And it gives very, very specific answers. Now, what's interesting about this book is that along the way, what you realize is that this book is not truly about Krishna and Arjuna. It's about yourself, because both Krishna and Arjuna are within you. Krishna is your higher self, and Arjuna is your lower self. And in one of the chapters, what Krishna reveals, and this is the quote that I want to read to you, which really makes a solid point on how to break out of this cycle, because what you realize is that the reason why this is changing, the reason why this shift is happening, is because you have a shift on perspectives, on how you see the world. And that basically means the things that you value. So here you're being more stoic. The things you value are long-term thinking, focus, growth, basically growing as a human being. And the problem is that eventually, for some reason, your perspective on life changes, and now you start to value more relaxation, pleasure, having fun, etc., etc. And this shifting of values is what basically makes you go through this cycle. And what Krishna tells Arjuna is this, and I want to read it to you because it's very insightful. It says, even if you were the most sinful of sinners, Arjuna, you could cross beyond all sin by the raft of spiritual wisdom. Nothing in this world purifies like spiritual wisdom. Those who take wisdom as their highest goal, whose faith is deep and whose senses are trained, attain wisdom quickly and enter into perfect peace. But the ignorant, indecisive, and lacking faith waste their lives. They can never be happy in this world or any other. Cut through doubts with spiritual wisdom. And if you think about this quote in the middle, right? Those who take wisdom as their highest goal, whose faith is deep and whose senses are trained, attain wisdom quickly and enter into perfect peace. What Krishna is saying here is that the higher self, that's what the higher self values, wisdom and growth. And those traits that he's describing, if that is your goal, right? If that is your value, the thing that you seek, wisdom, spiritual wisdom, if you can retain that always, that's what's going to allow you to always be in this state. But those, because if you think about yourself, and it makes a lot of sense when I read this, when I'm in my lower self, I am ignorant because I'm not trying to learn new things. I'm not willing to grow and learn. I am very indecisive, which is something that I've noticed. I start to be like, I don't know what I want to do with life. Nothing matters. You start to be nihilistic, and maybe you even lack faith, right? You start to be very pessimistic about life. And the interesting part is that Krishna says that to attain this, it's not just a change of perspective and values, because now you realize that this is what you need, but it's that you attain this by taking action, right? And that's basically yoga, okay? Yoga is not just this Western thing that we go somewhere to do some stretches and exercises. Yoga, in a way, what it means is to take action. And there's 4 different kinds of yoga that he talks about. Karma yoga, which is the more tangible form of taking action, and hopefully it's this selfless kind of action in which you're contributing something to the world, to reality, to other people. Then you have Jnana yoga, which is basically knowledge. It represents knowledge. Then you have Bhakti yoga, which is love and desire. And then you have Dhyana yoga, which basically represents meditation. So we don't need to go into a lot of detail, but that's just as a general framework. Those are the ways that he explains on how you can attain wisdom, specifically spiritual wisdom. And that's very interesting because we have this misconception that to attain this, for some reason, we think it's something that's passive, right? It's something that, oh, you retreat from the world and eventually you can attain this wisdom. But what Krishna is saying is like, no, it's the complete opposite. You have to go out there and do things. So in reality, to be in your higher self is to be proactive, and to be in your lower self is to be passive and do nothing, because in fact you're just indulging in these pleasures. You're actually not doing much. But the thing that truly helped me is not to understand these concepts that I'm talking about. The thing that really helped me was to realize what I said before, which is like Krishna and Arjuna are actually you. These are things that you embody within yourself, and being able to label them really, really helps. You can see that a lot of Christians, for example, they do this with Jesus Christ, right? They say this thing like, Christ is within you, accept his love and let him guide you, right? Even the classic quote of, what would Jesus Christ do? And then do that yourself. And I found it interesting that I was able to find this painting right here, which basically it's very similar to this, right? You have Krishna and Arjuna, and you have Jesus Christ and basically the Antichrist or the devil, Satan, whatever you want to call him, in a very similar position. And if you're able to find something, some kind of label that you can use on yourself to label those states, that's very specific. You have to find something that resonates with you, not just higher self, lower self. I mean, maybe for you, that's going to help you. I think it depends on personality. This is the most crucial point of this video, even if it doesn't seem like it. And to give you examples, you have here Brian Johnson. The way he does it is he has Evening Brian, this guy right here below. And Evening Brian basically represents this guy that when it's nighttime, before he goes to bed, he starts to snack. He orders pizzas and burritos and whatever that might be. He eats a lot of junk food. He doesn't sleep well. He messes everything up basically. And then he has like Morning Brian, which is a more disciplined, all the good traits, his higher self. And what he talks about is that he fired, right? That's the word he uses. He fired Evening Brian, and now it's just his higher self who's allowed to make decisions. And then you have guys like Kobe Bryant who develop like an alter ego, and he calls it the Black Mamba. And basically, if you think about it, it's the same thing. It represents the higher self, the character that's embodying all these positive traits that basically take him to achieve the things that he wants to achieve. Now, I've tried it to do it at a personal level, you know, for me many times. So I don't know why sometimes when I've been at very low points in my life, I take photos of myself. So here I have like my lower self. And then here my higher self, which is like more jolly, having fun, positive. And also sometimes I visualize it as of my inner child. That's how I see it. But it doesn't work for me that much. That's why I'm saying, like, you have to find the thing that resonates more with your personality. Maybe it's you, maybe it's an alter ego like Kobe Bryant, maybe something like Brian Johnson, or maybe it's going to be something like this for you. And if you think about it, all religions talk about this. Within the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see that Krishna literally says, like, I am in some kind of essence of God, and I am within everyone, right? Krishna is within all of us. Same thing with Jesus Christ, same thing with the Buddha. If you read all these spiritual books, you're going to realize that all of these higher levels of humans are within all of us. And you just have to find one that resonates with you, one way to do this, and maybe that will help you, because then you'll be able to very easily identify and label the part of you that's messing up, that's not living life in a way that's conducive to your goals. And you can ask yourself, am I being Krishna or am I being Arjuna? Now, you might be wondering that, okay, we've made this shift on values, on perception, and we realize that the thing we have to do is we value wisdom, growth. Okay, I want to live like Krishna. But once you're here, what are the actions that you need to take, right? Because we said those 4 things that Krishna mentioned, the 4 kinds of yogas. But I think there's a little bit more, especially now in the modern age. So there's this video that you should see on screen right now, in which I talk about how to build endless momentum, like the only 3 things that you need to do that. So check that video, and that's it. Subscribe, leave me a like, leave me a comment, and hopefully I will see you on the next video. Take care. Peace.